Welcome to What's That Got to Do with Marketing, where we start with a story you did not see coming. It might be fun, could be funny, or even a little bit frantic. But in the end, it will all make sense, leaving you with a takeaway, a to-do, or a transformational way forward. And I'm your host, Victoria. And you, my friend, are here for unlikely lessons and unforgettable marketing advice, just for small B2B expert-led business owners. Let's get into it. This episode is called Party Ready Marketing. Now, when I was about 7 years old, I experienced what can only be described as my first major marketing lesson in life, though of course I probably didn't realise it at the time. Now, my mum and I had gone to town on my costume for my friend's fancy dress party. And I was a pumpkin, but I wasn't just any pumpkin, I was the pumpkin. She'd built this huge round frame, which was basically built from like wire coat hangers, and she'd layered loads and loads of sheets of bright orange crepe paper. And I had orange scrunched up paper that was made into little turn ups for my shoes. And on my head, I had this kind of tall cone hat with a little green stalk hanging out of it. And it was just beautiful. It was homemade perfection, slightly outrageous, a bit embarrassing when I look back. But I felt absolutely fabulous in it. So off I went. It was only about a 5 or 6 minute walk. And I was waddling along in my giant pumpkin dome. My mum was carrying my hat so that it wouldn't blow away. And as we got to the pathway of my friend's house that went up to the front door, something didn't quite feel right. There were no balloons, no streamers, no excited screaming coming from the inside, no music. It was just silent. And, at the end of the day, I was 7 and I was optimistic and I'm wearing this amazing outfit, the kind of pumpkin of dreams. So I was fully expecting the door to open and the party to explode into life. But instead, the door opened slowly to a really confused parent. She was still wearing her slippers and she said to me, "Oh, sweetheart, the party was yesterday." Oh my goodness, the disappointment. I can still feel it. It's still raw. I felt like my little flame inside had just been blown out. And we'd put all of that effort in, all of that effort that my mum and I made. Don't get me wrong, it's a great memory, but only to realise that the moment had already happened without me. They were lovely though, they did let me in, and I still remember to this day playing around with a little tea set for hours and hours and hours. But the truth was, I'd missed the party. The timing, the structure, the actual event had all gone. I had all the enthusiasm, all the effort, all the costume, just not the system. So what has that got to do with marketing? Well, this is exactly what so many business owners are actually doing with their marketing. They're getting dressed up, they're showing up, they're putting all the effort in, making reels, writing posts, tweaking websites, doing little bits and bobs, sprinkling a little bit of marketing here and there. But the issue is they don't have the timing right. They don't have the right structure. They don't have the right plan. They don't have the execution there. And they end up knocking on the door of a party that has already happened, or worse still, it never even got started. So marketing isn't just about showing up in your best pumpkin outfit. It's having the lights on. It's having the right date. It's having the invitation list ready. It's opening the door at the right moment and saying, "Come on in, this is the party." Which brings me beautifully on to today's guest, because if there is anyone who understands how to get a party started in the right way, it is this lady. Now, Laura Phillips is a founder, a strategist, and a product creator who has driven more than 25 million in sales from launches for some of the biggest creators in the online space. She absolutely does have an enviable client list, of which I've personally been one. She's the creator of ProperPlan and now Proper App, where she's blending her marketing experience with product thinking to help experts like you, like me, to turn their knowledge into tools that drive growth. And she has got a decade of launches under her belt. And of course, that comes with a lot of scars to prove it too. And Laura's focus is really on getting shit done, but not just getting it done, doing it in a really simplistic way to help build sustainable businesses. I personally think she's an absolute inspiration as a businesswoman and one smart cookie, and you're going to get so much out of this episode. So let's do it. Let's welcome Laura to the show. A big welcome, Laura.
Hi, Victoria. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So, Laura, I'm going to get in deep straight away.
Let's
So,
go for it. And I have to say, I also had a mum who was amazing with costumes. Some of my best memories were of what she actually made for me. I'd been an angel, I'd been a toucan, I'd been a clown, and oh, it was the best. I don't have those kind of skills that my mum had, but I definitely have some creative skills that have helped me, and I definitely got it from her. So go, mums.
absolutely. Let's get into this thing around everyday marketing that everyone has to do. So, I always call the everyday marketing that lets people know you actually exist. I call it lights on marketing. You're keeping at least that porch light there so people know you're home, where you live, what you stand for, and all that jazz. Um, but campaigns, that's where you kind of throw open the doors a bit more and invite more people into a party rather than just walking by and kind of giving you the nod. Many clients come to me when they're throwing out a little bit of social media here and there. They're turning up at networking events, perhaps. They might be sending out the odd email and they're wondering why they're not getting success from it. And I'm sure you see that a lot, but they're completely missing marketing systems, processes, structure. Now, Laura, you've generated, as I said, over 25 million collectively from launches for your clients and helping them with that structure. So you've hosted more than your kind of big open the door moments. Now, when you think about that and all that experience that you've got, what actually made those campaigns kind of take off and get that uplift? And I'm thinking around, what's the strategy? Is it assets, team, message, or is there something more there that's actually doing the heavy lifting? So let's hear it from you. What's your thoughts on that?
It's so interesting because obviously my background is actually development. I started off in web design. So I come from a very, very structured background. And then when I started to turn my expertise into products, I had to learn marketing. So actually, I was not a marketer by trade. I was a web designer, web developer by trade. But I already had this structure and this kind of insane amount of organization. When I then started doing launches, people were asking me, how are you making this look so much fun? And I truly believe from structure comes freedom. And so when you have the right structure in place, and it's not about being obsessed with spreadsheets and organization, it's just about consistently doing the right things at the right time to the right people. And I'm saying that because so many people go into their launches thinking they have to do all the things. I've got to be on Instagram, I've got to be on LinkedIn, I've got to be on TikTok. And they create this amazing, huge campaign that's wildly complex. Life gets in the way, and all of a sudden they start to fail at the first hurdle, which is very simply their audience growth goals. And I know you see this as well. Like, you can try and do too much marketing, and that's what people try and do. What you need to really focus on is what's actually going to help you get to the amazing audience. And it's just finding where your buyers are. And it really is that simple. Small, consistent things, finding the right channel. And when I see like the success of the launches we've done, even at scale, it wasn't about being absolutely everywhere. It's about being where your buyers are. And I think when people really understand that piece, it eliminates probably 80% of the work. And so actually, I never planned to be an audience growth strategist. It was never really part of the plan with launches. It's just the thing that I saw and the thing that I could see in all of my massive launch success was getting that one piece right, deciding exactly where you're going to focus, and then just trying to shut out the rest. That gives people the confidence then just to go all in on that one channel. And that's where most of the success comes from. It's actually not the launch. It's not so often the offer. It is finding your right people in the right place and just going all in on that.
That's
And
good
it makes people
advice.
nervous though, right? Just going all in on one platform for maybe 90 days just to drive that launch success. And people start to freak out. So like, yeah, but I need to be on all these places. I think the core problem is probably they just don't understand where their buyers are even coming from in the first place. So they just try and be everywhere and doing all the things. That's definitely core problem number one.
Fear of missing out, and not really kind of actually knowing that success comes from just being, really concentrated in your effort. And then everything comes naturally, doesn't it? The messages come together and the offer comes together because you're really targeting that core person. So, what do you see as one of the real reasons or the reasons why most small businesses really struggle with their marketing? And more specifically, their launches and campaigns, and why is it maybe not actually the marketing itself? Why don't they just get on with it?
Honestly, and this is not going to be very sexy, but it is about being consistent and patience. And that's where the results come from. And I want to sit here and give you like some really sexy answers about why launches work. But the people who do it over and over and over again, often the same launch style to the same audience, they're the ones who are able to scale, focusing on the things that are actually going to drive people into the launch rather than faffing around with things like Canva. It's like you do the bits, you do the bits that are going to bring in the buyers, and you consistently do those pieces. And I'd say probably 90% of the problems just disappear away because you're focusing on what's bringing in the buyers. So actually, what I want to share is, if you've never done it before, go and do a debrief of your last launch. And even if you've only got 10 buyers, 20 buyers, go and have a look at where those people came from. And you have to then see, well, maybe this person came from LinkedIn. Go and actually ask the person, how did you find out about me in the first place? Because what people are doing is they're like the spaghetti approach, right? They're going to do all of these things, but without actually having the numbers in the first place. And if you just knew where your top 10, 20 buyers came from your last launch, you then know the exact starting point for next time round. And then if all you did was you focused on that one platform, that one piece of content style, whatever that was for you, maybe it's like video content or building the wait list, whatever the driver was last time, you're just going to focus on doing that in the lead up to your launch. I'd probably say, probably 6 weeks of a 12-week launch, if you just focus on that one thing, that's going to fix so many of your launch problems. And it's not sexy, it is the consistency piece, but that is what drives success.
So in your kind of world, what are you seeing in terms of what's truly driving audience growth?
100% organic content on Instagram for most audiences. I'd say if you are more strictly B2B, you're doing outreach, you're doing DM conversations through LinkedIn, you can definitely use that as a channel. But then I often say to my B2B clients, well, where are your audience hanging out on their breaks? Because they're not on LinkedIn. What is the platform you need to get in front of them? I often come to the question of like, well, what are they doing on their commutes into the office? They're not on LinkedIn. They're
Mm.
scrolling social. They're looking at other things. So you can actually capture those people who you want to get their attention in those places that are off LinkedIn. It's just maybe the conversation moves over there. So 100% organic content on Instagram is the number one driver. I would probably say I haven't seen a single launch that we've done 7 figures in the last 2 years where the audience wasn't built there. And that's how
Absolutely.
crucial that is as a
Mm.
platform now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just talk about this thing. So last week, we were looking at some of our client communications, and this one question we kept coming back to it was, what makes this useful? That's the one question we kept coming back to. And it was just our client stuff. But I personally think that's a really crucial thing to think about. It gets overlooked sometimes and completely ignored. So I think that we've got to really be thinking about, how do we start to put useful content out in front of people? Because that's quite critical in marketing, isn't it? Otherwise, you're just another voice out there shouting, and, why should anyone pay attention to you? So, what's your thoughts on that, Laura? Why does the usefulness really matter?
So I love this quote, usefulness over noise. So many people think that to have success with a launch, with a campaign, especially with audience growth, that they need to be pushing out loads of content that positions them as the expert. For me, that's the noisy bit, right? I want to be in front of everyone. I want everyone to pay attention. But actually, what we found through our work and everything we've done on massive launches over the past few years is that will work to a certain extent. It might get you vanity metrics. It might get you fans. It might get you people looking at you. But actually, what we need to think about is once they've seen you, what's going to make them pay attention to you. So we hear all the time, don't we? Like, be valuable, throw value bombs, whatever. But I just think there's so much more to this than just trying to be valuable. You want to be useful. So actually, when someone thinks of marketing, they think of Victoria. When they think of launches, they think of Laura. Like, that's the kind of connection you want people to make. And that's going to shut out so much of what you're probably doing, probably 90% of your content, and focus on the things that are actually going to bring in the right kind of people. So again, like being consistent on actually, how can I create content that helps people? How can I deliver useful content throughout the whole of the customer journey? That is going to mean that people are following you for the right reasons, not just for that vanity metrics. And I can tell you now, I had a launch once with, I think it was like 25,000 people. We didn't even do 7 figures. And this was a high ticket offer. And we were expecting massive, massive numbers from this. And when I say 25,000, that's 25,000 people who showed up to the webinar. But ultimately, I know, exactly, totally killed Zoom. This was actually a celebrity launch that we did, and we were expecting massive, massive numbers. But when we looked at the numbers, there were so many fans in there. There wasn't really people who found the content useful. They were just kind of like inspired by it. And that's not what you need with a launch. You need people with intent, people who really get that kind of, I love this person, I love what they're about, I find their content useful. So then they think of you and they kind of make that connection. And so that's what we want. Forget the noise. Like, don't worry about trying to go viral. It can help sometimes. It can help grow an audience. It can give credibility to your social pages, but it's not the end goal. The end goal is to have an audience of people who actually want to buy from you. So useful content always.
Absolutely. So, how can a business owner sense check whether they're actually creating something that's genuinely useful rather than just adding to all of that noise?
I think it's really think about the next step. So when it comes to useful content, does that make someone move a step closer to you, yes or no? Because if it doesn't, it's not useful. So for me, what I realize with launches is that I can talk about launch types, I can talk about launch success, I can talk about big case studies and testimonials. But unless I've actually convinced someone that I can solve their number one first step problem, which is audience growth, they're not going to pay attention to me. And so I had to really switch my content around in my business and talk about audience growth first, prove that piece, and then bring them in. And I was just trying to bring people a step closer to me. And if I was just trying to be noisy about all the success we've had with launches, I wouldn't be bringing in the right people. I need to solve that first problem first. So does it bring them closer to you? Yes or no? Then it's useful.
I often call that the pressure zone. What's in that pressure zone? What needs handling right now? Because that's the next logical step for them, isn't it? It's not thinking about, right, well, how do I fix this bigger problem that I've got that's going to, rear its like ugly head in 6 months? It's like, what's in the pressure zone now? What can I help them with? So, yeah, audience growth in your situation there.
It makes the next step so easy though as well, because if the audience growth is a thing that pulls in people to me around launches, and I can talk about then, well, how do you then convert those people into showing up for your launch? It's a really nice lead into how I then prove my value with a masterclass or a webinar. Again, it's just the next most useful thing. And then it means you're not talking about things that are relevant to them. You are moving people closer, but also you're bringing in people who know that they need you for the whole of that journey. Like, the audience growth is important, but then I'll dial things in a little bit more to, okay, what's the next most useful thing? Map those steps out.
Yeah, having an audience is one thing, but how do you actually make them take the next step? And on that note, let's talk about that next step. So when you're preparing for a launch, obviously part of that is the audience growth. Do you want to just give us a flavor for some of the kinds of tactics and the strategies that you use in launches to get some of your best results?
Yeah, so don't be boring, I think is number one. So it's like you talked about the party piece, actually. Some of our biggest successes with launches have been around boot camps, festivals, we've had soirees, retreats, something that's not boring. If you're not completely excited about your own launch, then people aren't going to be about it either. So you really want to create something that you can shout about from the rooftops. I just find that when you do something that's creative and fun and that's not been done elsewhere, your copy is going to be better, your energy is going to be better, people are actually going to pay attention, they're more likely to show up. And the more people who show up, ultimately, the more people who are going to buy. So I think that creative piece is just as important, especially in the landscape we're in now, where there's loads of AI content out there, which I guess actually does open up a new bit of creativity, right? But also it does create a lot of the same kind of stuff. So we've got to do more to stand out. And if you've got a creative event that's exciting, that stands out, that you're excited about, your ad costs are going to be so much lower than doing your kind of generic, okay, 3 things that you can do to X kind of webinar. Everyone's seen those, they've heard them before, they want something a little bit different. And so that's what I would definitely focus on, is like, what's the next step? What's the most fun, creative and exciting step that you actually feel enthused and excited about? And that really does a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of conversion and getting people into the event and getting them showing up, because let's face it, show up rates are so low now. Back in the day, I call these the golden days of launches, we'd get maybe 50% of people who sign up for a webinar showing up. You're lucky to get 10 these days. So the strong reason to show up, the fun, creative event, definitely supports that. But then so does reminding people why this is valuable, why is this important, why do they actually want to show up, and give some bonuses, give some things that people are going to actually love to receive if they actually just show up live, not buy, And this is where people get confused, right? You can use bonuses to get people to show up for your events. So I'll give away some of our best viral content hooks for our audience growth trainings, because that actually gets people showing up. They want to have those little like secret things. They want to have the behind the scenes. They want little tactics they can implement. So we give that away at the end of our audience growth trainings because that's what people want. And it does keep people sticky to the end.
Great advice there. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack in all of that. But if we think about this whole thing of people wanting to do more stuff because they're not getting results, so it's more, more, more. In fact, I was doing a keynote recently and someone actually asked me, what more can I be doing to get results? And the truth is, more is not always the answer when it comes to marketing. For example, you can increase the amount of social media posts that you do, but if the quality is not there, then what good is that? So, thinking about this myth of more, what's your thoughts on that?
Biggest mistake you can do with launches, for sure. When I've been working with someone for quite a while, actually, one of our strategies is actually how can we do less. So one of my clients, Elisa, she's amazing. One of the things we talked through this year is how do we cut down the buying cycle from someone coming into your world from 2 launches to 3 weeks. That was our goal. We did it. And it was actually not through adding in more into the mix. It's like, how can we take things out that actually don't convert people into buyers and just focus on that? That brings up fears for everyone because they're like, but I should be doing more. I should be on more channels. I should be doing, more content and being more noisy. This whole idea of doing more actually can be quite damaging when it comes to launches, because what we're trying to do is find the right channel, more of the people who are actually like your buyers. And that actually means letting go of probably 80% of what you're doing right now and just focusing on the really small things and doing that consistently. It is the same way to scale. And I see so many people trying to scale from these crazy, complicated foundations. So number one, you've got to simplify it. You've got to find out where your buyers are coming from, which is why I said earlier, if you can go and have conversations with people who bought from you last time, find out exactly where they're hanging out. And if you just focused on that, you're going to be talking to more of your buyers. And for some people, it means not doing LinkedIn, or maybe not doing Instagram, or not doing Facebook. Like, find that channel that actually brings in people who are more likely to buy from you and focus in on that one. So definitely simplify them. And then you've got the systems in place, and then you can scale from there. So this idea of like, you have to do more, we've never successfully scaled any launch through doing more. It's always through doing less and doing it better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good advice. And there's so many people that just need to give themselves permission to stop that thing that they're doing. But obviously that fear is there. My example of that, Laura, is I'm on TikTok, and my only followers pretty much that I've got on TikTok are 13-year-old kids, because my children's friends have decided to all follow me. Now, I've not got the right audience following me on TikTok. It is something that my children don't particularly enjoy me doing because they get a lot of stick for it at school. So perhaps it's time to just remove myself from TikTok.
That's so funny. I was on TikTok once, and I don't enjoy it as a platform. It can be valuable if you can get the right content, but send people over to a platform such as Instagram where you continue more of the conversations. We kind of use it as a feeder platform. One of my clients has done 10 million in her first year. 10 million in her first year from one product, 2 channels, and TikTok was the feeder channel to send people over to Instagram, which is where the ads are then run. Like, that as a strategy works brilliantly. But it is a tricky platform. It's not for everyone. It definitely, of all the platforms, the clients that we've got, that's the one where people kind of hate, or they get the most polarized people on there as well. So I think you have to have a really thick skin if you're going to use it. But then it's like, you've got to know, like, is that a needle mover for your audience? Do your buyers actually come from there? Or is that just a platform for noise? And in most instances, it's just a noisy platform. So bless you.
Absolutely.
Maybe no more TikTok.
Time to come out of TikTok. I think that is the lesson there. So one of the things I've heard you say from working with you is execution is the new marketing. So tell me what that means to you.
Yes. So my background is obviously development. As I shared, I'm a complete nerd, like totally all about the data. And I accidentally fell into marketing. So it's hardly surprising that I fell back into software. I have now 2 SaaS platforms. I have one which is like a planning platform, and one that is for people to essentially do what I've done and put their brain inside an app. So it's super exciting. But the reason I fell into apps in the first place was because in 2021, I noticed that my audience, this is crazy, I hate this statistic, but it's a great story. The more of my courses that someone did, the less likely they were to launch. Victoria, oh my gosh, that statistic in 2021 was just absolutely horrifying to me. I was planning on improving my courses. So I was trying to find out what part of my course is the best bit that people want more of. And actually the answer was they didn't want my course
Do
at
you know
all.
what's crazy about that? That was lockdown time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
coming out
the
of lockdown.
amount of online courses I sold in lockdown, and I found very much the same thing, because the implementation's not there. They're just learning, but they've not got that support to actually get it in place.
Yeah, correct. So that data for me was, it was one of those moments that obviously really defined what I do now. But it was also quite horrifying to think that I put all these years and all the effort into making my courses amazing, putting more coaching in, more community, more assets, more swipes, more resources, like literally just putting in more. Again, that kind of idea of like thinking if you put more stuff into it, you're going to have more success. The statistic that I found horrifying was the more someone consumed, the less likely they were to launch. Where people really got success is if they showed up to coaching and they followed the checklist. And I was like, okay, so they actually need very little of a course to have success. Maybe there's a software. So I'd had this idea for the software for ProperPlan back in 2017, kind of sat on the idea for years, but seeing this data, I was like, I need to test this and get it out there. When you see that execution is actually not about marketing with launches, you realize actually it's about how do I take those consistent baby steps every single day. That's exactly why I moved away from courses for me into software. I just knew I had to find a way to help people take like that next baby step and to do it consistently. And that's been the whole ethos of actually of my software. People can launch, people can do everything they need to do. But to actually, if you think about it with a course, you're asking someone to go and do sometimes 3 months of training to then go back to step one to take those baby steps. And it started to make no sense for me. And I realized that to help people execute, they needed very little. They needed a little bit more guidance. They needed more step by step, and they needed less of me. So I was just like, this is crazy. But seeing how that played out, seeing the success of people being able to take action on that, seeing that actually the course was such a tiny part of people having success. I think so often people don't trust their own knowledge and their own intuition. So they look externally for like big courses because actually it creates a massive distraction for them. Like, oh, I'm taking action because I'm doing the course. It's not about the learning. It's about the executions. My friend, Sunira Madani, one of my clients, built a $1 billion company. She's one of the only women of color to actually build a $1 billion business over in the States. She is absolutely incredible. Her name's Sunira Madani, CEO School. She would say to me, there's no such thing as $1 million idea, there's only $1 million execution. And she's so true. You can have the best idea on the planet, but if you cannot execute it, it's not going to be out there. So I do believe execution is everything.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And that's why, yeah, just those courses that are standalone, they just don't work. You do need that support that sits alongside it. So that's fantastic advice and a fantastic way to look at it. So, Laura, lots of people will be listening in right now thinking, this is great. And you've given so much amazing information here, but how do they actually get started here? What's that 10-minute task that they could do that will start the ball rolling for them?
So I'm a systems queen. It's what I do. I spend, half of my life just trying to help people become more organized. But I see like this thing of how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so if you can just start to think in a more systemized way with, how you take care of people, how you do your marketing, how you create lead magnets, and just start to think in systems, you're going to be so much organized across the board, as well as creating tangible assets that you can use over and over again. So 10-minute task, super simple. You're going to go and find what's like the one piece of advice or maybe a commonly asked question that you can turn into an asset. So it could be a scorecard, it could be a check-in, it could be a decision tool, anything whereby someone would usually come and ask you that question, because this can not only be used for content. It can be used as a lead magnet. It can be used as that bonus in the launch. It can be used for operations. It can be used in your program. And that's 5 ways from just one piece of content. And ultimately, if we think about what people want now, they want your brain, they want your knowledge, but they want it in a different format. I think they want a bit more interactivity. So anything that gives your knowledge, but gives it in a slightly different format, is going to create something that your audience are already using ChatGPT for. And ultimately, that's what I want. I don't want you getting replaced by AI. I want your people coming to you for these really cool, tangible things, but with AI speed. So yes, just one question and turn it into an asset that you can reuse absolutely everywhere.
Absolutely fantastic. So, Laura, we are in marketing karaoke time now, and I ask you to give me the name of a song or a lyric of a song that will help to anchor this show in the minds of those people that are listening or watching us today. So, when they think about that song, they're going to have these messages from Laura Phillips coming on back to them. So I'm going to ask you, what is your song and why? And if you would like to sing it, you may do, because if you don't, you'll be the only guest on the show so far that has not done that.
Oh my God, Victoria, you didn't tell me I was like the only person who was not going to do this. This is absolutely mortifying. Okay, this is my terrible, terrible Rihanna impression. Work, 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 work.
I think you nailed it. You
Yay!
have it. Work, 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 work.
Absolutely. The truth is, people know what they need to do, but they don't consistently do the work. And not doing lots of it, you can still have fun, it can still be enjoyable. So put that song on and go and do the consistent work, 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 work. There you go.
Oh,
Twice.
do you know what? And I think it is all of that kind of mindset stuff, isn't it, that really drives you. So today I had so much work to do that, check out the top. I've got POW on my jumper
I love it.
today. POW in a bright pink jumper if you're listening. For that reason, I just thought today I need to pow, get this stuff done. And I think, anything like that. So if you need to go and put on some tunes to get you going, Rihanna, work, 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 work. I don't know what that song's called. Is it called Work, Work,
It's
Work,
called
Work,
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 Work?
work. Yeah.
So if that's what
Actually,
you
it
need to do,
might be called work. I don't know, but it's a
it might
great
be called
song,
Work.
right? We've got
It
to do
is a
it.
great song. It's got good energy about it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that is the song Work, 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 or however many times you want to say it, by Rihanna. That is the song to anchor to this session, to remind you, come on, let's just get on. Let's get on and do this. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. It's all about simplicity and implementation. Laura, you have successfully executed many campaigns. Yes, you've done it for other people. Yes, you've helped some big names do this, but you've also done it for yourself. You've done it for many of your ventures. So I would like to ask you, and it's a little bit, I want to hear about your life. So what has launching enabled for you in your life? Because I want people to really understand, when you do this well and you really stick to it and you have that momentum behind it, you can allow things into your life that you perhaps haven't even dreamed of, or you've only dreamed of. So Laura, share with us some of the things, if you don't mind, from your personal life that creating amazing launches has enabled for you.
Oh, do you know what? The number one thing that immediately comes to my mind is what it's created for my family in terms of their success. So my business has been going for 11 years. I've never had a month where I've not been able to pay myself. And I've never had a month where in recent years, I've not been able to pay for my whole family to work. And that has been the biggest joy and biggest gift, that no matter what's been going on in the world, me and my family, we all work in the companies. Well, actually, that's not quite true. My daughter has now left to build her own company. My son is leaving in the next 2 weeks to build his own. So I've kind of done my job. My kids are grown up and they've moved on to their own things. But it's been so amazing that, no matter what's happened with the economy, with lockdown, the stability that I've got in my business through learning how to launch, learning how to do marketing, has meant we've got amazing jobs and we've got amazing income and we have amazing experiences, and we all get to do it working together. And truly, that was not anything I ever planned for. I didn't plan for my kids to work in the businesses or for my husband to work in the business, but that freedom and that joy from us all working together and all getting paid really well, like that has just been the most amazing thing. They don't have to have a crap boss. They don't have to go and start from the bottom. And I do think that if you can bring your family into your business, it's the most amazing gift. So that has been like my my biggest joy, my biggest pride, but also like the biggest stress reliever for me as a parent, knowing that I was able to actually take my children through apprenticeships in my business and train them up to such a point that Megan 23 and Casey 21, they've now got their own businesses, travel the world,
Fantastic.
doing their own thing. Like that to me, above everything that I've got for myself, that's like the ultimate freedom, like taking away that stress that we have as parents. Like, what are our kids going to do? And you want them to be happy. My business has created that. So that's really what launches have given me. So I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for answering it. It's incredible. It's really, really good to hear and very inspiring for those that are listening. Do you know what? I'm just going to go on to ask you another question about that, actually, on that note, because lots of individuals, they are told, don't work with family, don't work with friends. I personally have a completely different view of that. I find that when you're working with the people that you trust them and they care and they give a shit about the success. I mean, that's how I see it. How about you?
Totally. And I'll tell you why. Kim Kardashian, I saw in a video the other day, she was talking about her masterclass, and she was saying she has a no asshole policy. I'm like, that's so true. Like, I don't work with assholes. Assholes, we'd probably say in the UK. You might have to bleep this bit out. But I do not want to work with anyone that I wouldn't invite round to my home, have them have dinner with me and my family. I do not want to work with anyone unless they pass the barbecue test. It's so, so important. So I've only ever worked with people I like. I don't have contracts with my clients because they're friends. And I know that's kind of quite backwards. And I don't know, like you, Victoria, I think business can be done in a completely different way. Some of my best friends have actually come from business relationships. And it's just so light and easy and joyful. And actually, as long as you have boundaries, you can totally work with your family. I had to teach my kids how to separate work mum from, from Laura. They actually don't call me mum at work. They call me Laura. Like, that's how we separate the two. Megan worked with me for 8 years. Casey worked with me for 4. My husband's worked with me for nearly 5. So we're still all together and we still love each other. So I do think, we're doing something right.
Oh, that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for coming on to the show today. It's been brilliant to hear from you. And I know that this is going to be so useful to those that are watching and listening. So, again, thank you very much for your
Thank you for having
time.
me.
And that's it for today on What's That Got to Do with Marketing. And we'll see you on the next episode.